All right, so our first module, we are going to talk about teams. Like if we're going to study them all semester, we've got to learn and make sure we really understand the elements of them, especially the psychological elements. So as I told you before, this is your textbook, but I believe it's listed in the bookstore at like $175. So please rely on what I'm providing you. Okay. In your reading, you will find a couple of things. First, we're going to talk about social facilitation. That's one of the biggest elements that we need to think about in groups. Okay. Social facilitation is when being with another person almost brings out something in us that we didn't realize was missing before. So, my favorite example is running on the treadmill. Running on the treadmill, you're by yourself, you're doing your thing. But if someone else comes and gets on another treadmill beside you, you're going to work harder. Okay. It's that we could talk for a while about like where that comes from. Part of it is that just innate drive for competitiveness. Part of it we will find is that sense of belonging and really kind of fitting in with our group. Okay, so make sure that we understand that. Also, think about group dynamics. We're going to talk about those throughout this semester, but make sure that you understand social facilitation because if we are leading a group, we need this. Like, we want this so that all of our group members are working hard. Okay. We'll also find, it's not really in your reading, but we'll talk about it later, social loafing. So when people are in a group, they kind of look around and go, I don't have to work as hard because all these other people are here. So we want to make sure that our group is working in a way that brings out social facilitation and doesn't let them social loaf. Okay. So first of all, we got to understand the function, like groups, teams, people, like what's the difference? Well, we can have some people, okay, and we have them here just doing their thing. We can have groups of people, but they may not identify as a group until we find that they meet some of these criteria that are listed in your reading. I feel like I go over it a couple of times in the reading because I want to make sure that you get it before we move on. All right. So a group, if we belong to a group, we have to have two things. We have to identify as a member of that group, and we have to have a recognition as a member of that group. So a good example of this is like doing an online yoga class, right? So since the pandemic, I've started doing online yoga. Now I've been taking yoga with this instructor for a long time, just watching some of her videos on some apps. But she does a live stream, and so I will show up as often as I can for these group sessions. I know you don't care about my yoga routine, but there's a point to this. So as I've become part of this live streaming experience, I've also become part of a group, right? So I identify as part of what she calls her live stream family. And so what she will do is take the time before class. And again, this is all leading into stuff. Okay, so we're going to talk about this in class. She will take time to address us. Like the very first day I logged in, she called me by name, and I thought, what? This is crazy. Like to me, she's this famous yoga teacher that I've just been watching her videos. And she addressed me by name. And now, by those simple switches, okay, I now was recognized as a member of her group. Her group, she has a name, right? Her online or her live stream family. So I identify as part of that because I show up pretty regularly. And I'm recognized as a member because when I show up, she says, hey, Stephanie, you're here. And she calls everyone else by that name as well. Well, not by Stephanie, but by their name. So we identify, like we belong to a group now. So by identifying, I identify myself as that, and I'm recognized in this case by her as a member of the group. That separates us from a bunch of people, right? So that's different. Those are two key factors to make sure that you understand. The next thing is what takes us from a group to a team. Well, we've got structure. Okay, on a team, there's some kind of structured interaction. There's norms. It's not just kind of freelance doing whatever. There is structure. There's shared goals. Okay, so let's go back to this yoga class. There is structure, but she's the boss. Like we're not really interacting with anyone else. There are shared goals. We all show up to work out, But if somebody else has a bad workout, it doesn't affect me. Okay, whatever. I've had the workout of my life. You had a terrible one, doesn't matter. We're a group, not a team. There's interaction, purposeful interaction, and special skills. Now, in this group, okay, in the yoga group, it doesn't matter who's skilled, like what level we are. Um, but in a team, it's different. There's structure. Who do I ask if I have this problem? Okay, where do I go? What coach, what assistant coach, team captain, who communicates with who? There's structure. There are shared goals. As a team, we want to win this game. We want to, reach these stats. We want this recognition. There are shared goals and a common fate. Okay, I didn't write that up there, but I think that's really important, is that idea of common fate. So when you're on a team, if my teammate has a bad game, that affects me. Whereas in the yoga class, it doesn't matter. Okay, that's a group. This is a team. And then specialized skills. Everyone is doing their part to get to this big goal. Okay, it's not, again, in a group, those things don't matter, but in teams, they do. Okay, so I feel like I've repeated this multiple times, but it's really important. All right, and then the last thing is kind of looking ahead to what we're going to study the rest of the semester. So we're going to zoom in and look at it for just a second. So these are kind of like all of our topics, our module and chapter topics for most of the rest of the semester, because we're going to look at not just the skill of our team players or teammates, but we want to look at these psychological parts. So one of the most important quotes I think that you should pull from your reading is that a group of people, like a group of experts, I say it much better in whatever I've typed up, but a group of experts can be working together but not functioning well. So just because people have really good skills and they're really good at their sport doesn't mean they're going to be a good team player. You can probably think back to some examples of that. Or maybe you have one right now. Somebody has good skills, but they're not a good team player. And part of it plays into this. So we want to know the psychological factors impacting the way our teams function. Okay. So that's the overview of this module. Make sure that you come ready to talk about it because we're going to kind of, again, explore the groups and teams concept because we're going to be digging deeply into these as the semester goes along. Okay.